If I had to take a guess which series I've put the most time into, it would have to be Call of Duty. I'm pretty sure the first time I ever played COD was COD 2 Big Red 1 at one of those classic PS2 demo kiosks. You know, the type that gave you scoliosis because you had to tilt your head 45 degrees just to see the screen. Despite spinal herniation, that single hit had me fiending for more. At the time, I hadn't really played anything like it. Sadly, my parents thought that 360 no-scoping Nazis on Normandy Beach wasn't a necessary part of growing up. Tragically, many of my friends' parents agreed, so while me and the boys got to play some Call of Duty here and there, it really wasn't until COD 4 that prohibition was finally lifted. And just like the Americans in 1919, we binged hard. From COD 4 to about Black Ops 2, every single social event was an MLG stereotype. Kids crammed around TVs going ham on Call of Duty, sipping Mountain Dew and chowing down on Doritos. Every social gathering devolved into me and the boys shit-talking each other over 1v1s, trying to get high rounds in zombies, noob-tubing scrubs online, and if we were bored enough, we'd even try out this kooky little game mode. It was a great time to be alive. Slurping down enough caffeine to kill a horse, swapping out to play some Halo for a change of pace, and losing track of time so bad we didn't realize it was 5 a.m. until the morning sun was blinding our eyeballs. Now those times are more than a decade ago, and they are never coming back. In the meantime, Call of Duty has changed, but so have I. I fell off the series soon after Advanced Warfare, finally returning for Modern Warfare 2019, only to fall back off again after Cold War and Vanguard. And now I'm back once again, another 100 or so hours into the newest Call of Duty extravaganza, and some questions are on my mind. Is this one of the good years for Call of Duty, or is this another off year? And can Activision run a competent enough live service to keep people interested? Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want a little disclaimer. This video is only about the multiplayer. I've played a decent amount of DMZ, Warzone, and Spec Ops, and I even hovered my cursor over this mode for more than a couple of seconds. But 99% of my time has been spent in the normal 6v6 environment. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on the other modes, just leave a comment. Otherwise, this video would be longer than it already is. Finally, Modern Warfare 22 is a live service nightmare hellscape game, which means I can say something here that is completely different or removed moments after I write it down. As I write this video, it's right before the release of Season 2, so for all intents and purposes, this is a review of the launch Modern Warfare 2 and Season 1. Are we all on the same page? Alright, let's go. I enjoyed and am enjoying the multiplayer, but it is an extremely mixed bag, with some matches so epic you can almost hear the nu metal and see the FaZe logo, while other matches make you wonder why you even decided to wake up today. The core gameplay of this game will feel extremely familiar to anyone who's touched any of the previous 18 Call of Duties, feeling almost identical to the last Modern Warfare. You run around with guns as accurate as lasers and about twice as deadly, duking out in modes ranging from deathmatch to Baby's First Counter-Strike, all while being serenaded with the sounds of dying smoke alarms, fat vape rips, and extensive usage of slurs.
Oh my god, these guys are fucking
If you hated the last couple of Call of Duties due to their core gameplay, this one is not going to sway you. But if you found yourself enjoying the COD brand of idiotic, over-the-top action, there's a lot to like here. First, I really like the way that the game looks. The levels embrace colors without being cartoonish, and the characters have enough personality in their design to be visually unique without being distracting. And the guns feel like they were modeled and animated by someone who cares about guns maybe a little too much. It's probably the best looking AAA modern military shooter on the market at the moment, but considering the only competition is this, I guess that's really not saying much. But if looks were all that mattered, your hot friends with daddy issues would have happy, fulfilling lives, instead of drinking away the sadness at a dive bar on a Thursday night. And in the case of Modern Warfare 2, the good parts are more than just the looks. When this game is firing on all cylinders, it's some of the most fun digital homicide I've personally engaged in. The movement system offers enough to be interesting without being too complex. You've got crouching, crouch sliding, going prone, mounting, mantling, hanging, climbing, and the long overdue return of the single greatest tactical move the human race has ever seen, the dolphin dive. A lot of this is carryover from Modern Warfare 2019 with one large sweaty omission, the slide cancel. Truth be told, I feel a little split on the removal of the slide cancel. On the one hand, more movement options is better, but on the other hand, I found slide canceling annoying to do and annoying to play against, so I don't really miss it. And I play COD like a Miami man on bath salts, flanking the shadow people with ruthless aggression and inhuman feats of speed and stamina, and this movement still allows me to live out that dream. This might be my favorite locomotion in Call of Duty, but I did find myself wishing that everyone was just a little bit faster, although I'm not sure if that's my brain or the bath salts talking. All the lead spitters in this game look and sound fantastic, with the appropriate crack and crunch when you fire them, and making nice clicks and mechanical snaps as you reload them. These weapons are clearly the stars of the show, and a lot of work has went into them, with each of them having enough unique characteristics to make them stand out from one another. You might pick a gun because it looks cool, sounds awesome, or you just straight up like the way that it plays. And thankfully, the balance doesn't punish you for playing around with the guns. Minus a few stinkers, every single gun slaps harder than a New Year's Eve party with Dana White. If there's one design choice that's often referenced when talking about the original Modern Warfare 2, it's how everything was cranked to the absolute limit. MW 2 followed a design philosophy that if everything was overpowered, then nothing was overpowered. A philosophy that I think paid off pretty well in 2006. This game feels like it's taking a very similar approach, with the TTK of damn near everything being significantly lower than my average view count. Naturally, there's still guns that work better in certain situations. If you're within docking distance, an M4 is going to lose to a shotgun pretty much every single time, but the guns within each effective range feel like they're on a fairly equal footing, making your weapon choice feel like personal preference rather than an obligation to play some kind of meta. Despite what over-caffeinated broccoli boys on TikTok and professionally pissed streamers have to say, none of these guns are broken or a free win button. Everything is so strong that if you can't go positive with any of these bad boys, that is a diagnosable, certifiable skill issue. Also, each gun is versatile enough that you can really tune these things however you want to. You want to snipe with an over-under sawed-off shotgun hucking slugs down range? Have at it. Want to turn an RPK into a Chirac SMG? Go for it. Want to kit out a gun with a bunch of tactical bullshit that makes the gun decidedly untactical? Buddy, have I got the game for you. The combination of movement, guns, and gunsmithing creates a very attractive base for a fantastic multiplayer game with enough customization to support almost everybody's playstyle. I was liking the core gameplay so much, I wandered outside where most COD players will ever go, outside of the safe halls of domination and team deathmatch, and into some of the more kooky modes, where I was pleasantly surprised to find even more quality. A shooter is nothing without good modes. Aside from guns and movement, game modes are the core of a shooter's identity. People don't remember Halo for Slayer, they remember it for SWAT, party modes, and horrific mismanagement. COD's identity has always been linked to TDM, S&D, and maybe a little domination. I say that because years after release, these are the modes that are still alive. Luckily, all of these modes play pretty well here, with the exception of TDM for reasons that we will get to later. This Call of Duty also comes with some brand new modes that seem like an effort to try and bring some of the CS and Siege goblins over to hitmarker heaven. Prisoner Rescue is pretty self-explanatory. If you ever played CS Office and thought that this would be way better if I had throwing knives, then buddy, this is the mode for you. The key thing here is that it isn't really a one life mode because you can revive your teammates, which makes each round a little less stressful. It can also lead to unpredictable comebacks when a team revives almost all of its players. It's a fun mode that's a little held back by a long round timer, which encourages a whole lot of turtling. Knockout is the other new game mode, and it comes with the same one life with revive system as Prisoner Rescue, but the goals are very different. This mode is almost like a one flag variant of Capture the Flag, with the team holding the bag at the end of the round being the winner. The mode retains some of the turtle issues that Prisoner Rescue has, with the first 3/4 of some rounds being dedicated to securing a kill around the bag without actually trying to grab the bag. Despite these turtling issues that both modes share, I think that they're a fun spin on normal one life modes without being as high strung as Search and Destroy. If you liked the idea of S&D, but can never get down with being one-tapped 5 seconds into a round by a kid on a fat gram of Adderall, I would give these modes a try. There wasn't a game mode that I disliked, but rather map and mode combinations that weren't always the best. TDM on Al-Bagra's Fortress is pretty fun and focused, with enough variety on the map for movement and cover from kill streaks. Kill confirmed on Border Pass is only good if you want to roleplay as that scene from Sicario. Otherwise, I think I would rather die than play it ever again. Overall, this report card is looking pretty good. Good modes, good guns, good movement, good gameplay. So why exactly does little MW2 have to come and take some summer classes? Well, let's get into that. Famed scholar Axl Rose once penned that every rose has its thorn, and Modern Warfare 2 has a shitload of them. Everything from minor inconveniences to major malfunctions, this is truly a modern video game. Let's rapid fire some of these little poopies before we get knee deep into some turd towers as we climb through the laundry list of issues that this game has. First is the nerfed customization compared to the last Modern Warfare. The ability to spray paint dumb shit on the walls, get some drippy watches, and flash ADL approved hand signals was part of the fun for me, and its absence is confusing and unnecessary. Modes wise, this game also feels barren. All the absolutely necessary modes are here, but where are the party modes? Oh, there they are. Not having modes like Gun Game, One in the Chamber, or Infection really hurt the first season of this game. I don't mind sweating my balls off in normal game modes, but sometimes it's nice to have a low stakes party playlist with more creative modes to kick back and relax. Riot shields have always been cancerous, and they remain cancerous in this game. They're annoying to fight against and completely brain dead to use. It kind of surprises me that they don't break, considering Infinity Ward's commitment to realism in their Call of Duty games. To be fair, I don't think that they're overpowered. I just think less of you if you decide to use them. The spawns in the core game modes are terrible, either spawning you directly into a firefight or spawning you so far away from the action, you'll wish that Marathon Pro was still around. Due to Infinity Ward's silly pursuit of realism in Call of Duty, there's no reload canceling, which means no YY ladder stall trick shots, but also means you're gonna die if you ever oopsies hit the R button. LMG bros stay forever losing, I guess. Teammate collision sucks, and it seems inconsistent to the point where it makes maps like Shipment actual hell to play, because there are so many pussies that won't leave spawn, which means you don't get to leave spawn either. Speaking of Shipment, having revolving modes might be a necessary evil, but it's also annoying. End up loving Bounty or Control? I hope you don't get too attached, bucko, because you'll have to wait for those modes to show back up again. I understand rotating out 24/7 map stuff, but putting whole ass modes behind a time wall seems kinda stupid. The progression sucks. Getting a gold gun is too easy, taking only a couple of matches if you're dedicated. Leveling up guns to use attachments on other guns is also very stupid, and removing prestiges makes the XP grind feel completely worthless after level 55. Lastly, this game is buggy as hell. Everything from improper notifications for camos all the way to hard crashes to the desktop, this game has it all. Most of my bugs were purely visual, but that doesn't excuse their presence in a $70 release from one of the largest publishers in the world. Little issues out of the way, let's look at some of the more serious flaws. These menus are dog shit. First of all, they're Hulu menus. If you went on Hulu and replaced Family Guy and Justin Roiland's Felonious Fantasies with Warzone and Shipment 24/7, these menus would look nearly identical. They're so similar because the menus were built by a guy who worked on the Hulu menus, and I guess he's just kind of a one-hit wonder of UI design. Hulu's UI is fine when I'm mindlessly scrolling through menus trying to find something to drown out the voices in my head, but that UI sucks when I'm trying to find something important and specific like hentai calling cards. Compared to the clean, if visually boring menus of the OG Modern Warfare 2, these things are just terrible. The first time I booted this game up, I got lost, and I can't remember the last time I got lost in a menu system for a video game. And the Battle Pass will tell you that there's something to unlock when there absolutely isn't. Half the time the Battle Pass doesn't even function at all, eating the tokens that you've grinded for. Visually cluttered, messy to navigate, and functionally flawed, these menus are so bad that if it's the only part I got to touch, I'd assume it's some free-to-play Korean shooter from 2013. But the worst part of the menu is the gunsmith. The gunsmith was one of my favorite features of the last Modern Warfare, and I am very glad that it returned. It helps keep the game fresh while also allowing you to make rifles that would make Mr. Browning shoot a thick wad out of his Belgian musket, if you know what I mean. For a player like me, the gunsmith is the screen I use the most outside of gameplay. I'm constantly tracking my camo challenges, throwing on necessary visual flair, and tweaking my guns to my liking. The problem with this tweaking is that it's convoluted and bloated. There are a lot of attachments in Modern Warfare 2. I would argue too many, with many of the attachments looking like copies of another attachment, and some of them functionally are copies of another attachment. If you're just using the in-game text to tell you which is which, you are going to be lost, because these menus are extremely vague on how much of a change these attachments actually make. I've said it before, but I dislike multiplayer games which use text or bars to convey data when they can and should just use the numbers. Because when it comes to PvP, knowledge is quite literally power. This habit of hiding basic stats necessitates third parties to do testing on things and disseminate that data to everybody else. This unwittingly creates a balancing problem when most people are not going to track down a guide to see what the difference between these two silencers is. The problem continues because for the players who do want to know that information, they need to rely on these third parties, whose accuracy ranges from actual truth to Alex Jones reporting the news. By excluding stats from this screen, it creates a situation where professional hype men and 12-year-olds on TikTok spread straight-up misinformation. The best example of why using vague words instead of just showing us hard stats is a problem is with the aim-down sight speed decrease that nearly every attachment carries. Enough people read this and misinterpreted the severity of the effect that there was a whole group of people that wholeheartedly believed all attachments made your gun worse. It's stupid because it's hard to blame them because this whole system is stupid. Throwing a scope on your gun can make it either ADS this slow or this slow, while sharing the same description. Even if they're not going to use hard numbers, they could at least say significantly increases or slightly increases or something along those lines. And since we're on the topic of ADS, having nearly everything carry these fat ADS penalties feels kinda shitty. In a series that's been historically defined by speed, where first shot on target is often the first to win, balancing the game this way seems strange. I can only imagine it's for Warzone and DMZ modes, which are more slow-paced with longer sightlines, but it can make fully kitted out guns feel like you're shouldering a 500-pound steel beam. Last thing about classes, Activision gives us 10 class loadouts, yet they only give us 5 custom perk loadouts. Curious. Speaking of the perks, I don't like this perk system. In previous Call of Duty games, the choice between perks was always interesting, but in this game I really only run one perk package all the time in every single class. Some of these perks are just straight cheeks. Strong Arm, Extra Tactical, and Battle Hardened all feel like bad choices to run. Maybe it's because I loaded up whole ass maps to learn CSGO smokes, but if you need a line to tell you where your grenade is going, I don't even know what to say. The bonus perks have some real stinkers too. Resupply, Focus, and Cold-Blooded all feel kinda worthless in the normal multiplayer. Grenades are strong, but having them on cooldown doesn't make sense in a game where you're dying so fast and so often. This crazy low TTK also makes perks like Focus seem pointless. None of the gunfights go on long enough that I feel like it would really help you, and Cold-Blooded is only going to really help with thermals because no sane person is running high alert in normal multiplayer. The so-called ultimate element perks are the worst part. High Alert is really only useful in large map environments like Ground War or Warzone, or One Life modes. Ghost straight up doesn't work if you're using a suppressed weapon, on top of the minimap being so nerfed in this game that removing yourself from it barely matters. Bird's Eye is also broken. It tells you the enemy's direction at the direct cost of seeing if an enemy is above or below you, which can be useful information. Overclock just gets you field upgrades faster, which aren't powerful or versatile enough to make it worth it. I have no idea why you would run Last Stand, and that really just leaves Quick Fix, which is crazy strong if you're playing aggressively. I don't like the way that you unlock perks throughout the match either, and I don't know what the point of doing this even was. It doesn't make the game feel more dynamic, instead it feels like you're nerfed for the first half of a match. I used to like tuning my classes by experimenting with guns and perks, but this system is just not worth experimenting with because there's really not that much experimenting to do. The matchmaking in Call of Duty continues to inspire thoughts of ending it all. The so-called SBMM or stats-based matchmaking is back in this game, and it is as bad as it's ever been. A lot of COD tubers and Twitch streamers hate SBMM, which at first sounds like a no-brainer. Their brands revolve around their perceived superior skill in hitting nuke gameplays to put on YouTube. With this SBMM system, they don't get into those crayon-eating lobbies anymore like back in the day. Rather, they get stuck in lobbies with people sweating just as hard as they are. The problem is that's not actually how this SBMM works. The SBMM in Call of Duty is more about trying to get you to play for the longest amount of time, which is why it's more accurate to call it engagement optimized matchmaking. Long story short, some stupid science bitches found out exactly how much pub stomping someone can take while still spending the most amount of time playing the game, because the longer you're a player, the more likely you are to become a payer. This makes the matchmaking feel terrible, predictable, and manipulative. Wins and losses feel like they are handed out, like a computer is rigging the game before the round even starts. That's not what skill-based matchmaking is, and I wish they would move away from this restrictive and boring system. Fuck the stupid science bitches and their giga-brained algorithms, just bring back the old lobby system. I know the dead meme of old school Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, but my experience back then was not as horrendous as people made it out to be. Sticking with a group was fun to have some banter, but also gain some respect by doing good in a match. It was much more like playing a game of pickup basketball in the park, whereas now it feels like I signed up for a basketball league when I just wanted to play a couple of pickup games. I made friends in those old school lobbies. You could find people to play Spec Ops, or 1v1, or Zombies, or even other games. Did I occasionally have people hit me with death threats, slurs, and other gamer words? Yeah. Did it bother me? Not personally, no. And if it ever did, I hit that hidden little button that so many people forget exists. I think the new system actually encourages more toxicity than that old system ever did. Wins and losses seem to matter so much more than back in the day, so everybody is more on edge than they ever were before. Not to mention, you're not going to run into these people ever again, so you have nothing to lose. It's pretty much the 4chan effect. You're anonymous, you're interacting with someone once and never again, so why not go DEFCON 5 on the lobby? You're not going to get reported because the menus are such a clusterfuck, and even if someone happens to stumble into the report section, Activision Blizzard would rather kill another one of their employees before ever banning a potential customer off of their $70 microtransaction store. The map situation in this game is bleak. This Modern Warfare 2 is seriously lacking in quantity and quality of maps. The original Modern Warfare 2 had a pretty stacked set of maps. The base game shipped with 16 maps, strapping another 10 on over the course of 6 months and 2 DLC packs, for a grand total of 26 maps. Now there's a solid chance I'm staring through some pretty baller red tinted glasses, but back in the day, these maps hit harder than DJ Khaled at the all-you-can-eat buffet. You got High-Rise, Terminal, Favela, Quarry, Scrapyard, Crash, Vacant, motherfucking Rust. These maps were unique and tons of fun to play. What does this version have? This Modern Warfare 2 launched with 11 maps, with one getting cancelled harder than a YouTuber once the Discord logs go public, only to make a glorious return as Season 2 exclusive content. Yippee! Season 1 brought us 2 new maps, bringing the current total maps to 12. For those at home keeping track, that's 4 less than the OG game, but in theory, that's fine. There's a whole set of people that don't know that Black Ops has more than just Nuketown, or that CSGO has more maps than Dust 2. One solid map is worth more than 5 shitty ones, so maybe the quality is really where the game thrives. On top of having less maps, the maps this game does have are just not very good. Most of them are oversized and play extremely poorly in anything that isn't objective based, making modes like TDM or Kill Confirmed feel like a chore on anything except for a handful of the smaller maps. And since TDM is one of the pillars of Call of Duty, having a slow, boring version of it drags the entire game down. The current map pool isn't just weak, it's stale, with no new content coming in Season 1 at all. I'm glad to see some remakes, but at this point Activision should run as head of the Green Party for how much they're recycling. This game is filled to the brim with recycled content, which makes the overall lack of map variety pretty unacceptable. I'd love new maps, but at the very least put the remakes you did for the Warzone in the normal multiplayer. There's at least 11 maps hidden in the Warzone: Quarry, High Rise, Terminal, Afghan, Dome, Tarak, Shipment, Showdown, Storm, Pipeline, parts of Rust are all scattered around the Warzone. These maps are already done, so all Infinity Ward would have to do is copy paste them into the multiplayer, and copy pasting has been their favorite pastime since COD 4. The maps here are a shame considering the prestige of the original game. How the hell are you gonna call yourself Modern Warfare 2 and not have Terminal or motherfucking Rust? Having all the maps in the Warzone is kinda a slap in the face. Firstly, as a Warzone fan, I would have rather seen unique POIs instead of recycled ones. Secondly, if I know Infinity Ward the way that I think I do, their green initiative is going to continue and these POIs will be recycled into the normal multiplayer, being slowly drip-fed out over the next few seasons, ruining any hype of returning maps. Believe it or not, Activision, it's kind of hard to be surprised that Dome's making a return when it's already in the game and I've dropped there in the Warzone already. Speaking of Warzone, let's get to the biggest issue, the big elephant in the room, the relationship Call of Duty has with Warzone and how that impacts the rest of the live service. Now, I was around for Modern Warfare 2019, played it before Warzone came out, loved it, and was excited for all the new content that was in the rumor mills, map remakes, new guns, new modes. The future was looking bright, and then the Warzone nation attacked. Seemingly overnight, Call of Duty changed forever. Activision was handed a golden goose of infinite money, and their priorities naturally shifted towards that goose. The Modern Warfare 2019 multiplayer just was not a focus anymore. It only existed to funnel people into the Warzone, and for us multiplayer bros, it was so over. This game feels no different. The core multiplayer mode of Call of Duty feels like a $70 grind kit for Warzone 2.0. I could feel it in my bones during the first season, but as this season wrapped up and Activision put out their Season 2 roadmap, it all but confirmed it. This is the section for new multiplayer content for the full-priced game. This is the section for new stuff that is coming to the free section of the game. It's pretty clear where Activision and Infinity Ward have their priorities. There's 2 new maps. One that was in and out of the game already, and another which is a point on the Warzone and a map that's been remade multiple times already. 2 new ground war maps which are both parts of the Warzone, and one that's a remake of Terminal. Is it too much to ask for 4 multiplayer maps per season? I don't think that it is, and considering how deep the pockets are, I think it's reasonable. At least we're getting some new modes. I'm glad that we have ones coming, and this list is looking pretty fat and fresh, but it is stuff that we've we've seen before. The game desperately needs them, but it's stuff that should have been in the game at launch. To be clear, I'm not saying that Warzone and the DMZ are doing great either. Just one new map for however many months seems pretty slow on that content train too. And as a guy that really does enjoy every part of this game, I would like more of it across the board. But if you're going to put more resources anywhere, it should be in the part of the game that you're asking people to pay $70 for, rather than the part of the game that's free. Activision has a team of over 3,000 people working solely on Modern Warfare 2, and they still might end up releasing less content than TF2 will this year, a game that's been developmentally dead for half a decade and is worked on by permanent graveyard residents. It's pathetic, and my least favorite trend in modern gaming. Stop branding yourself as a live service game if you can't provide better service than your namesake did more than 10 years ago. A game that still relied on the old map pack model, but at least then you still got more maps in less time. By 6 months, this game still won't have the same amount of content that game had 10 years ago. The modern trend of releasing half-finished games only to sell you the finished game through season passes over the next course of a year or so has got to stop. I'm so tired of playing these games that have solid cores but nothing to support them. I'm getting flashbacks to Halo Infinite, a game I thought played great but was so starved for things to do at launch I just couldn't recommend it. But at least Halo Infinite was free. Modern Warfare 2 is $70 for a half-finished buggy Warzone expansion that's going to be abandoned in less than 9 months. Looking back to the front of the video, I asked if this was one of Call of Duty's good years, and I think that answer is no. I don't regret my time I spent in the game because the core gameplay is a lot of fun, but the experience seems hamstrung by a drip feed schedule that seems reliant on delivering the absolute minimum at launch just to finish the game later. I also asked if Activision is competent enough to run a live service version of Call of Duty, and I think that answer is a clear no. The upcoming season is more barren than Jackie Kennedy. Activision has essentially gut their entire corporation to have every single developer under its wing working on Call of Duty, and it doesn't seem to be worth it. These games print money, there's no doubt about it, but they continue to give us the definition of a minimum viable product. The game was hyped up by Activision to usher in a new era of Call of Duty, an era where the community matters and developers work their hardest to provide the best service possible. This isn't happening, and if this is what the new era is going to be defined by, maybe it's time for me to go on another 5-year break from this franchise.
That's right, we're Japanese.